Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Dawson Scholz from The Ongoing Concept to the podcast. The Ongoing Concept released again last Friday on Solid State Records. Dawson talks about the influence of Dream Theater, being in a band with his brothers, how Again took shape, and more. Unfortunately, I did have to cut this interview a little short as dad life took over, but I think we managed to cover a good bit of ground before I had to bail. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's chat with Dawson from The Ongoing Concept. Are you from Rathdrum? Is that where you're currently located?
I don't live there anymore.
Okay.
I live in Coeur d'Alene, which is only 10 miles away.
Okay.
But I grew up in Rathdrum for most of I went to school there, and our whole band basically grew up in Rathdrum. But we've all since moved into either Coeur d'Alene or outside of Rathdrum-ish areas. My parents are the only ones. I don't like the name Rathdrum. It just sounds like it's the joke that Rathdrum people just call it rat dump
Sure.
here. But Coeur d'Alene has a really cool, it just sounds cool because it's like an actual Indian tribe from back in the day. So
Yeah.
I love saying that I'm from Coeur d'Alene opposed to Rathdrum now. I don't know. So
Yeah, that makes sense. What was growing up like?
what do you mean? Just living in Idaho?
In general, yeah. In general.
Pretty good. I mean, I think a lot of people assume that we kind of live in the boonies in the middle of nowhere, North Idaho. We're really close to Canada. We're only 100 miles away, and I was born in Canada, so my whole family is Canadian. We were able to get citizenship here back in 2005 or something. But yeah, Rathdrum's pretty cool. It's a small town, of course, but we're so close to Coeur d'Alene, and then we're also really close to Spokane, Washington, which is a really big city. And then we have Missoula in Montana. So we have a lot of stuff really close to us. So it's nice. The community here is great. A lot of just I just feel like everybody kind of knows each other in this area, and we are growing and expanding, especially in Coeur d'Alene. I think we're one of the fastest growing cities in the Northwest, or even the country itself. But there's still a really nice community-based vibe that's here in the surrounding area.
Nice. Yeah, I was looking it up on the map, and I saw it was half hour from Spokane, and I was like,
yeah, and that's where we play all of our shows. We have never played a show in Coeur d'Alene, or really even Rathdrum, other than house shows back when we were just starting as a band, because there's just no venues in Coeur d'Alene. It's very touristy. There's a lot of famous people have summer homes here, and so the community, especially where you would assume venues would be, are very anti that. They want to keep everything very ritzy and prim and proper, because there's a lot of the resort, the Coeur d'Alene resort where I used to work, they'll have the billionaires club that comes through. So Bill Gates and Elon Musk, all these people will come in and have conferences here. You never know that though, because we're so excluded. We're just kind of this weird little space that no one thinks to do stuff. Justin Bieber comes in and he has a studio like 20 minutes from here, in the middle of nowhere. And just weird shit, man. Yeah.
It's like a Pacific Northwest light.
Yeah, kind of.
That's funny. What got you into music?
I mean, my whole family is very musical. My dad plays drums. My mom plays piano and sings. My grandma was a piano player. A lot of my uncles and aunts are all musicians themselves. So I literally was kind of just thrown into music at such an early age that I don't really know what got me into it, other than just kind of being surrounded by it so much that I don't know. There's just before I was even walking, I was, taking Lincoln logs and hitting, pots and pans with them. So I really can't recall.
Yeah. It's just always been there.
It's always been there. Yeah.
What got you into like punk or hardcore or alternative music?
So I was when we started writing or like making music back like 2005 and 6, like a long time ago, we were really into the band Dream Theater.
Okay.
And we had all their live DVDs, we had all their CDs, we had everything, and we were just obsessed. And so we really started out writing technical stuff because at the time, we were in band or we were in like this and that, and we were, I guess you could say, because we had grown up on music, we were beyond what people our age were playing. Sure. And so we found ourselves trying to like push the limits of our musicality. And so when we first heard Dream Theater for the first time, I think it was Dance of Eternity was the first song we ever heard. And that was like, holy crap, this is like the most insane thing we've ever heard. So we started writing and playing music very technical and progressive because we wanted to, push those boundaries. But after a while, you start writing songs that are 60 minutes long. You start doing other stuff, and you start realizing that no one really likes listening to that stuff for that long. And so we loved playing it, but we did like some talent shows and stuff, or some battle of the bands, and we never won. And this is when I was still like a freshman in high school, like very young. We of course never won because all of the ones that were playing like Jack Johnson Banana Pancakes covers were the ones winning all the battle of the band, that kind of thing. Yeah. I'm like, why is this happening? This doesn't make any sense. And then one time we were at a family reunion with a bunch of my extended family, and my cousin Sean introduced us to the 11th Hour by August Burns Red. And we were just sitting on the lake in Canada called Kootenay Lake. It's like an hour and a half away from here. And my aunt and uncle owned property there. And so we would have all these people come down. And so we're spending the weekend there, and like we have a boom box. This was like a long time ago. And he's got his August Burns Red Messengers CD and puts it in. And that was it. That was when we were like, whoa, this is insane. Like it's got all the technicality of something like Dream Theater. The songs are only 3 minutes long and it just sounds insane. And that was the first time I really heard that type of music for the first time. And then ever since then, we started branching out, listening to bands like Attack or Asking Alexandria. All those kind of like the 2007 to 2012 type style bands. And yeah, that's kind of where it all started with the heaviness.
Nice. Are you the oldest of your brothers?
Yes, I am. I'm 31. And then my brother Kyle, who's like the main screamer, he's turning 30 this year. He's like 20 months younger than I am. And then Parker, our drummer, is 6 years younger than me. So he just turned 25.
Wow. And y'all are nice and young.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when I turned 30, it hit me. I'm like, I'm not young anymore, but I'm embracing it. But yeah. I think a lot of people say we're a young band because we were doing a lot of stuff when we were just kids.
Yeah. Were you always the ringleader of your brothers? Like, all right, you guys you have to play this instrument. You have to do this. We're forming the band. Like,
I mean, I think for a while, we didn't really know who was going to do what, because we all are multi-instrument people. Like I started playing drums when I was very, very young, like 4 years old. I got my first drum set, and everyone assumed that I would be like the drumming prodigy in the family. And then Kyle started playing drums, and he was really good. And at the same time, we were all taking piano lessons too. And then Parker actually never showed any musical interest for like the first, I want to say like 8 years of his life. He was very focused on cars. He loved like he just collected cars and he's a mechanic now. Like he loves mechanics, but for a long time, he just wasn't into music. And then one day he picked up the drums and surpassed Kyle and I just like overnight, it felt like. And it was kind of annoying. And I think it's because he's the youngest, and you always hear that story of people that are, when they're the youngest, they have to keep up with their older brothers. And so without even realizing it, they're actually having to push their talents to keep up, and they actually progress faster. So that's exactly what happened with Parker. Wow. So we just assumed right off the bat, Parker's the drummer. Like he's very good at that. And Kyle Kyle was really just into piano and stuff. And then I started to pick up guitar later on, like in middle school, almost high school. And so at that time, that's when we were starting to form some sort of group together.
Yeah.
And it just kind of all slid into place. And as far as like the singing goes, we were actually trying out a lot of like singers back before we were even called The Ongoing Concept. And I found myself singing the parts that I wanted them to sing to try out for our band. And after a while, I realized that I can just sing the parts myself. And so we ended up just having me sing. And I don't know. It was just kind of a weird, slow moving piece that just, there's not really any like definitive line of when someone was like, this is what we're going to do. And this is what we're, not going to do. So it just kind of happened naturally.
Yeah. Where'd the name The Ongoing Concept come from?
This one's funny. We were originally called just Concept, and we tried to do that URL in MySpace at the time, and it was taken. And so I was like, well, let's make a play on words and call it The Ongoing Concept. And then after a while, we're just like, why don't we just call our band that? So there's no great story to that. It's just, we wanted to have concepts in all of our music. But the ongoing was just a forced name change because of MySpace.
That's funny. That's funny. When you guys were like starting to write music, you're a very eclectic band, and you've always been very eclectic from like your earliest days onward. Like, what led you guys to not put any boundaries around what you were writing?
I mean, it's a multitude of things. Like, I think Dream Theater probably has a bit to do, because if you listen to a whole Dream Theater album, they'll have every type of genre you can possibly think. Of course, those genres are usually like only a snippet of like a 30-second piece of jazz music to then go back into heaviness, which is why they're the way they are. And that was probably inspiration. I also I always try to word this correctly, because I come across as a narcissist half the time when I say that I don't really listen to music a lot. I never listen to it in the car. I never listen to it leisurely. I listen to it when I have to mix or work on music. Then I'm always listening to it, but it's the projects I'm working on, whether it's my band or a band I'm recording. So I listen, I tend to find myself like not being influenced by a lot of music. And so when we write a record, I kind of block myself away from listening to anything that's coming out at the time, so that when I start writing, I'm just writing something that I think sounds cool to me and not what is the hip thing at the time. And oftentimes I feel like that helps me just write something that's a little bit odd to maybe what the norm would be. But I don't do it because I'm like trying to be all better than everybody else. I just find myself not listening to music a lot. And so then when I do write it, I'm like, I like how this thing is going. I don't know if anyone else is doing it, but we'll put it in here. But then the combination of Dream Theater and just kind of adding different layers and different styles kind of in our music, tastefully. I don't want to be a gimmick either. Like, I'm not going to, I'm only going to use like our banjo for Cover Girl because it made sense. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it in every song that we do just because we want to add that banjo gimmick to everything. So it's just kind of just comes however it makes sense, I guess.
Hey kids, gather around. I want to tell you something. Yeah, come on, clap your hands. Here we go. Clap, clap. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop being afraid. Stop being afraid. All your life is a second to get again. Piece of God, peace within the station. Become a sin. With God for the day. Let's say over. We should walk in someone else's shoes. 'Cause that's success. That's our success.
What led you guys to Solid State?
Solid State approached us after we had done Arrows Before Bullets. We released that music video, and then they ended up coming to us, really interested, and kind of just formulated from that. There wasn't really, I never was one to send out demos to labels. I never did anything like that because I had a feeling, and I'm correct on this feeling, that they don't actually give a shit about people sending them demos. And then after, we got signed and I asked that question. And of course, I've now toured with enough bands to know how other labels work. And yeah, you have a very, very small chance of even being listened to if it's really about showing your worth beyond forcing it into someone's hand with labels. So we just got lucky, and their A&R, I think, found us somehow, just either on YouTube or some other blog site, and really liked what we were doing. So he just hit us up, and that's where it all started.
Ask about Handmade.
Sure.
Your second record, and the idea you guys made your own instruments for this record.
Yes.
Why?
We did. Well, we knew it would be I come from a very DIY family, for one.
Sure.
That's just how we've always been. My dad is very DIY. He does tons of random stuff, and it's kind of ingrained in our minds that you can kind of, if you set your mind to it, you can kind of do whatever you want, and it saves a lot of money.
Sure.
Growing up here in Idaho, we didn't really have a lot of, my parents are very supportive, but we didn't have a lot of money to be going and buying $10,000 DW drum sets and stuff like that. So we actually built we built one drum set years prior ourselves too. Not the same way, but we got all the shells online for very cheap, and then drilled all the holes, routed all the stuff, and did all the hardware ourselves. So we'd already actually had a little bit of experience with doing it. For the whole concept of Handmade, though, I first knew that it would be a marketing sensation. So I was like, let's do that, because never heard of someone doing that, and it's a great marketing tactic if you want to get our names out there and kind of have a little bit of shock factor in there. So that's kind of what it started from. And I pitched the idea to Solid State, just kind of jokingly, and they were so stoked about it. Even I almost, at first, when I told them and how excited they were, I was like, oh man, I think I might have opened up a can of worms, because then I'm like, I might have to actually commit to doing this idea.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a lot more challenging than I even expected. So it was crazy. I love it in the sense that it was so much fun. But I hated how hard it was to make it all come together.
Right. And because of the gimmick, were there people who were discovering your band because they're like, who are these guys making their homemade instruments? Or was it just the same fan base being like, that's cool, why the fuck would you do that?
I think our main fans were just so stoked about it.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of people that had never heard of our band that were just like, what the fuck is going on? And I think that really helped us, captivate a lot of new audience members. So it all around was a great time. I think that we could have done a better job marketing. I think that we just missed the mark of it being more viral. I think now, if we would have done it now, it would have been a whole new viral thing. Back then, I feel TikTok wasn't a thing, Instagram wasn't really nearly as big, and so that kind of shock factor marketing, quick 1 minute video style was just not there. I mean, there was Vine, I think, at the time, but we kind of missed the mark, I think, unfortunately. But maybe someday people we'll have another spark, and people start posting our old videos of building all that stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah. What happened between Handmade and Places with your brothers leaving and just member changes, just life?
Yeah. So I when it comes to just growing up together as brothers, it's tough to live in the same house already. Yeah. And then when we kind of got shoved into touring at a very young age, Parker was literally, I think, 14 or 15 when we started touring full time. So he was still in middle school. And so when Handmade was done and we started getting these bigger tours, we started just, I think, especially Parker and especially Kyle. Kyle had just gotten married in 2015. And I think it just got to the point where they really wanted to live life normally. And grow up and maybe just feel like a normal human being.
Yeah.
And Parker especially. I mean, he just wanted to be a high school kid and have normal friends his age and just be who he wants to be, you know? And so I think that's where it all kind of stemmed from. And then, you know, there's just a lot of, like, I'm a very picky person. Like I'm constantly micromanaging everything. I do so much of the band. I try to lessen off. I definitely have lessened off now, but at the time I was very much like, this is what's happening. I'm in charge, blah, blah, blah. And I think that kind of was like getting too old for the guys. And I think they're like, I'm so tired of this shit. Like, we just need some space.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really, I mean, there was a bit of like burnt bridges at first because, you know, I didn't want the band to stop, or I didn't want them to leave at all. Like, we were just coming off of a really big tour and we had more in line, and it was really, really awesome. So it was definitely like a brutal blow to me. And so, yeah, I was a little bit pissed off for a second there, but I let them do their thing. And they definitely you know, had their own experiences doing whatever they were doing. And I think it was very healthy. I honestly think it was probably the best decision for them at the time, and I wouldn't take it back at all. I think it was the most important thing to have them all grow up, and myself grow up too, and learn some shit. And now that we're back, we have approached this whole thing at such a more healthy perspective. Yeah. Because before then it was like, I knew my brothers for one thing, the band. That was it. I didn't know them beyond the band. I would even say things like, if I knew Kyle outside of being his brother or being in the band, I wouldn't be friends with him. He doesn't fit my personality.
Sure.
Because it was true at the time. You know, I didn't know Kyle or Parker outside of that kind of concept. So when they started to like consider coming back, you know, it was because I started actually hanging out with them, not band involved at all, playing pool. I played pool with my brother. I love like playing billiards and stuff. My brother Kyle and I would play pool all the time, like every other night at his house. And we just gained a friendship that was beyond just a business type thing that we've been so used to doing. And that was a huge step. Same with Parker. We connected with, you know, other things. And that was the first most crucial thing that helped us come back together, was because now we're actually a band where we're friends now. We're just having a good time. Of course, they're my brothers, but I look at them as like my closest friends. I call them and hang out, or call them and talk to them almost every day and have them come over and hang out with me. That never happened before. So yeah, I feel like that was very long-winded, but it's always important, because I think a lot of people assume that like there was some bad blood going on, and I never made an official statement, or, you know, we kind of came to agreement that it wasn't. No one needed to really know what was happening to us at the time, because like it's not really like, we don't even know what's really happening yet. We're not going to be going out and making I don't know. We just wanted to see what would happen when the playing field kind of settled down, and everyone kind of grew up, got married, had kids, got different jobs, found different passions. And I think it was just awesome. And I'm so happy that everyone's back.
Yeah. It's already tough being in a band when you're 18 to 25 and you're changing so much and really figuring out what you believe and who you are. And then like, now your brothers on top of that, and it's like, already built in tension of being brothers. It's
so hard. And you know, like I had a couple other interviews yesterday, and I was talking about this too. Like the 18 to 25 range is so detrimental to your mental health if you don't address it and take care of it at that age. And I really think that a lot of bands would benefit a lot if they did what happened to us. Take a break for a few years, find a passion outside of the band, find something that you fall in love with besides the fame or the the Instagram likes of being like a person of influence in any sort of way, because you just hear about it. You know, these people are constantly depressed and have a ton of anxiety because every time they wake up in the morning, they have to go, oh man, what do I have to post on Twitter today to like keep relevant? Fuck, what am I going to do? Like what type of fake drama do I need to create with another band to kind of keep, you know what I mean? There's just so much involved, and that would stress me out. And there was a time where I was doing that almost every night, feeling like we had to stay relevant, had to post all the time, had to like stay up to date on everything, had to have some sort of image on social media, or else we would just fall short, you know? That's not healthy. And so I think all these people need to find a hobby outside of music and just find a passion that's not music related at all.
Right. Yeah. I've talked to so many people, and it's like people who released records like, and then COVID hit right away, and they were like, everything went social and trying to stay relevant through like lockdown. It's like, yeah. Oh yeah. It sucks.
It's not fun.
Terrible. No. How was COVID for you guys? Do you think like that lockdown and separation kind of helped this place where the band came back together and is making music again, or?
Well, I mean, for us, since we live so close, there was never really any separation. In fact, I think we actually hung out more often than because, you know, everyone started doing stuff from home more often. And so then we had more time to go over and hang out with each other. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of where it all started. We started just hanging out more often during COVID, and then started writing together more often. But yeah, I mean, Idaho is definitely a more conservative state. So like there was not nearly as many like regulations or what do you call it? There just wasn't as much going on here. People were kind of doing their thing. And so, yeah, we hung out a lot during COVID.
It's called Again. Where'd the title come from? Other than just you guys are making music again?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what that right there, what you said, making music again. Yeah, we were like writing. And about halfway through, I was really digging into our older music. I was taking my old computer, my old studio computer, going back into some old Pro Tools sessions of like Saloon and Handmade and places. I was really trying to see where my headspace was at during that. Because like, you know, with an album, there comes tons of extra content, you know, ditched songs, scrapped demos, this and that. I was trying to keep the vibe that we had, like it's for Saloon example, a very thrashy, crazy record. We aren't like that anymore. We were a little bit more mild and quiet, but I wanted to still write or still have that energy in some way. So I was going back through a lot of these sessions trying to regarner like that way of thinking. And throughout that, I started like, I was still writing our new album, but I was like going through some stuff like Unwanted, for example. I was going through it and I'm like, oh man, this, you know, this chorus on Unwanted again. What if I just tried the verse for this new song with the same kind of lyrics? So then I started, you know, doing like the Unwanted, you know, and I was like, oh man, it'd be kind of cool if I like took some of these hints of other songs and put them into these new songs and almost have like a part 2 or like just kind of tipping your hat to, you know, the older stuff. And of course, us literally talking almost every single day about the fact that we're writing again. And it just felt like that word again was popping up just every, you know, when people say like they see the numbers, like certain numbers like 1111 or this and that, like the word again just popped up so many times that after a while I was like, you know what, because we're coming back again, because we're all together again, because we're using parts of other songs again, why don't we just call the album Again? Like that just seems to make so much sense. And we also are one of like our band, we love having just one word titles for our albums. Like that's kind of always been our thing. So it just fit everything of how to make this album kind of have a concept.
Yeah. Was because you were going back through the old sessions, is that what led to all the names? Melody again, Unwanted again.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Yeah, because Melody, I definitely went in and I was like really digging apart some of the lyrics and some of the choruses and verses and stuff. And yeah, going through there was where I kind of made the decision on like what songs were going to be called what. But there was also some songs that had already been written and completely done before we even did any of that. So like Prisoner Again, for example, is really nothing. There's a few lyrics that are similar to the Prisoner from Handmade, but it's not it's more loosely tied. It's more just like a concept gimmick at that point. But like Unwanted Again is very much like 2.0. And then we have the song Saloon Again, which is straight up it's like the sequel to the first Saloon. So there are certain songs that are just more having that again vibe than others.
Yeah. What was the concept behind the album artwork?
Well, we got that VHS camera for our music video. For I guess all three now. We didn't know what we were gonna do with that, but we filmed Unwanted again. Well, no, we didn't. But I'll say we did. I don't want to go down a long tangent. We actually filmed Feel Again, the one we just released. Yeah. We filmed 80% of that 2 years ago. Oh, It'll be 2 years in May. We had no idea. That was the only song we actually had. We had one song done, and we were like, maybe we should just do a one-off single with Solid State, and then we decided to do a full length. So when we did that music video, we had no idea what we were going to do. So we actually reshot a bunch of stuff like 3 weeks ago. With the VHS camera, because now that the VHS camera is part of the whole thing, we had to bring that in to make it all make sense. But anyways, so that's a little fun fact for Feel Again. But anyways, with Unwanted Again was like the first one that we had started filming that had everything pieced together. And so we bought a VHS camera, and what we wanted to do was have like a fourth wall breaking thing similar to our song Unwanted, where we're in like a room of mirrors, and we want it to be like a fourth wall thing where it's someone filming us filming inside of the mirrors, but it's like the upside down Stranger Things kind of version of it, if that makes it's really complicated, but sure. It seems like people have actually grasped that, which is super cool. So after that was done, we were like, we should do Prisoner Again too. And I was like, well, what if we made this like the prequel to being in the Unwanted Again video? So then now we have the VHS camera again. And so then with the artwork, I was like, well, when you think about a VHS camera, you always think about the one thing that sucks about them. You have to rewind them every time that you get to the end of the VHS tape. And that's just, so that comes back to the beginning. So the rewind concept along with Again just kind of like made sense. And so that's kind of where that all started. And I thought it'd be cool, like the idea of having all of our stuff buried under the ground, especially with our Prisoner video where we're running away from the law, but we're filming each other. Like you either want to throw all that stuff in the fire, or maybe you want to bury it because you don't want the law to come and see you, with all, I don't know, it's just a stupid, it's really silly, all of it at the end of the day. But that's where the idea of like digging a hole, making a coffin or a grave of VHS tapes and a VHS camera came from.
What led you guys back to Solid State Records? Were you just still under contract with them?
Yeah, we were still under contract, and I think they gave us a chance to just not do this record with them, but we decided it was probably still a good thing because they do a good job. They have done a good job with us in the past of just like obviously here we are having a conversation with you because they always get good PR to do stuff with releases. So I'm not really familiar with any of that, and I wasn't going to try to shop another label around. It's like too complicated, and a lot of times those contracts can take up to like a year to finalize. And so I was like, I don't want to be waiting until 2024 to be releasing this, So I don't know if that would have happened, but it just made sense to follow through with the contract and everything. And they've been great. So yeah. Nice.
Well, the record is out 31st. What's the rest of this year look like for the band?
We have like an album release little tour that we're doing April 7th at the Big Dipper in Spokane, April 8th at the Mano Occulta in Portland, Oregon, and then the Shredder on April 9th in Boise, Idaho. And then we have a little run that we're doing with Lightworker and Bloodlines at the end of June to get us to audio feed, which we're performing at. We're actually performing Saloon front to back because it's our 10-year. That is July 1st and 2nd. And then we're just doing some writing dates back. Right now, we're kind of working on some other tour/show stuff for like later in the year, but it's all very loose and I don't really have a lot to confirm on with that. But we definitely do have some really cool stuff happening potentially at the last 3/4 of the way through this year, I guess.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcast and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.